Hignett corner, beyond Bent. Janssen! And Blackburn Rovers are 18 minutes away from a Premiership return.
As far as Stewart, just outside the penalty area, clips it central for David Dunn. David Dunn equalises! It just had to be. Dax corner and it goes. Glance towards goal, and Rovers have taken the lead. And Charlie Mulgrew has scored his 14th of the season. It may well be the goal that sends Rovers back into the Championship.
Good evening, Rovers fans, and welcome to our post-match review of Rovers' draw 2-2 away at Cardiff City this afternoon on Grand National Day. I hope you all had a winner or two on the Grand National. I'm sure that will feature in the comments, but a hard-fought draw for Rovers today. And as you can see, we are blessed with not one, but two guests on the Rovers Chat post-match review today. We've got Ross Gibson down in the bottom left. How you doing, Ross? Oh, he's muted. He's done the Joe Harvey. He's done a Joe Harvey.
Yeah, I'm doing all right, thank you. Yeah, better after the performance today.
Absolutely. We'll get under the skin of that. And we've got Andy, otherwise known as Wiltshire Rovers. How you doing, Andy?
Hi, Ryan. You all right? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no worries. It's good to have you and Ross on. As we've said, we always like getting the other views from the people that join our watch-alongs and all of our shows. It's always great to have different voices and different faces on. But we have got a stalwart of Rovers Chat on the channel, 1875 podcast host Tom Schofield. How you doing, Tom?
Yeah, not so bad. It's the first time in a while I've done one of the live streams with you, Ryan, so it's good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to have you on, mate. Good to have you on in the top right there, keeping me company. So, yeah, we'll get under the skin of this game and just Rovers as a whole. For Rovers fans who aren't used to how we do things on this channel and on the post-match review, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please hit that subscribe button. Please, of course, turn on all notifications using that bell icon. And please give this video a like and all of our other videos a big, huge like across the Rovers Chat platform. Before we get under the skin of this game, though, just a couple of reminders. We are sponsored by Blue Rose Capital, and we are also sponsored by 𝒑𝒆𝒔𝒆𝒑.com. The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 𝒑𝒆𝒔𝒆𝒑.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below. Thank you to our very kind sponsors, Blue Rose Capital and 𝒑𝒆𝒔𝒆𝒑.com for their very, very kind sponsorship. So let's get under the skin of the game then. Ross, I'm going to come to you first. I'm then going to go to Andy. You're our two guests, so we'll go with you first. Just sum up how you're feeling after that game today, you know, with how do you think Rovers played and what were your thoughts on it?
It was a better performance. We seemed to create a lot more today, which was a change from recent performances. Like I say, we had a goal threat. Like I say, it's not been there for a while now. Still don't look great defensively. Still look a bit unsure at times, and we were a bit slow at times. But on the whole, I thought we played a lot better today than we have done in recent weeks. Well, since the international break, anyway. So yeah, like I said, needed the point. Points better than nothing. Tricky game away at Cardiff. We don't always do well at Cardiff, so I'll take the point and an improved performance.
And the second half, I thought, I'm just going to stick with you, Ross. The first half was a weird half because the game just started like a real crash bang. You know, Cardiff and Rovers both went at each other, and then it just felt inevitable when Cardiff did take the lead, and we just saw the same from Rovers. I thought when we go a goal behind, there was limited response, and then we got gifted that goal on half time. You know, from Armstrong, we're going in at 1-1. To be fair, I thought Rovers came out really well in that second half and obviously hit the woodwork 3 times and then the goal out of nowhere. Do you think a draw is the least that we deserve today?
Definitely so. Like I said, we hit the woodwork 3 times today. On another day, we'd probably score one of them at least. But yeah, we did start. That second half started really, really well. So Like I say, take a point, probably on chances alone, probably deserved all 3. But you've got to take the point with the way we've been playing lately. Definitely.
Yeah, it is. And Andy, I'm going to come to you then, just as our second guest. As Ross just said there, Cardiff away is your atypical, difficult game. And before the match, on the watch along, I said that I actually thought that this one, weirdly, was one of our easiest fixtures because the other 5 games that we've got now are teams who are down there fighting relegation, and they're kind of your atypical 6-pointer games. So how do you think Rovers did today? Going away to Cardiff City, playing really well under Mick McCarthy as well. What were your thoughts on the game and how you thought Rovers did?
Yeah, I think before the start of the game, most people would have taken a point. Like I said, we hit the woodwork 3 times in the second half, and you're thinking, is it going to be one of those days? And then Cardiff go and get the goal, and you think, yeah, it is going to be one of them games. So to come away with a point at the end of it, I think on reflection, most people would be happy with it. The games that we've got coming up, we're the top of that mini league, so the onus is on them to come out and beat us. And when teams come out and play us, that's generally when we play better. It creates gaps and we can use our pace players. So quietly confident that we shouldn't be in any problems. And like I say, a win, 2 wins, and I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, and I'm just going to stick with you, Andy. Because there are some Rovers fans that are just not invested whatsoever in the fact that Rovers are in any kind of relegation battle. But whilst Rotherham do have those 4 games in hand, it still makes me a little bit nervous. And Rotherham are just that type of side that if they were to get a couple of wins and make it a bit nervous for us, it could make things difficult. Actually, I was looking at the scores today, not just involving Rotherham, but Derby lost today, and then we got our point. We're actually 4 points clear of Derby now. So actually, we can go and win that Derby game next week. That puts us 7 points clear of Derby. Forget Rotherham out of the equation. We're 7 clear of Derby. That game next week's massive, isn't it? If we can go and win that, I think we're safe, aren't we?
Yeah, you'd like to think so. I mean, you've got Birmingham, you've got Derby, you've got Sheffield Wednesday, you've got Rotherham. As long as we don't lose those games, those teams aren't gaining any points on us. So although fans would be disappointed with a draw, if we could draw those away games, win those home games, we'll be fine. There's a lot of teams would have to start doing very well all of a sudden for us to be in any trouble. And I'm just looking at the table. Rotherham have lost 21 out of 37 games. So yeah, they've got games in hands on us, but they're not necessarily going to get anything like maybe 3 or 4 points out of those 4 games. And even if they did get 4 points, there'd still be 7 behind us with 6 to go. So I think we'll be fine, to be honest with you. I understand why people are getting a bit twitchy and a bit panicky, and some fans who aren't necessarily switched on or have just sort of like switched off from the season all of a sudden might be thinking, oh, we're in a bit of trouble here. But looking at the fixtures, we're in the box seat. All those teams that we're playing, they'd like to be in our position. So let's just make those points count and rebuild in the summer.
Yeah, for sure. And Tom, I'm going to come to you, obviously on the 1875 podcast and all the various live shows that we've done. We've spoken about this run of form. It is only 1 win in 15 games now, which is not a good stretch. It's certainly not a good stretch for a Blackburn Rovers manager. I think Wiltshire, you put it in the comments earlier, didn't you? I think Mowbray is now 4th overall, all-time Rovers managers with a non-winning record like that. What are your thoughts, Tom, at full time? It's 2-2, stoppage time equaliser. I'm celebrating that every day of the week. I don't care how we're doing in a season. Rovers score a stoppage time equaliser. I'm buzzing for that, as everyone saw on the watch along. However, a win would have been great. It is only 1 win in 15. So is it still just a bit tinged, a bit soured by the fact that this form isn't great? And obviously there's those big question marks over the manager.
I think it's a tricky one because obviously you're happy that you get the equaliser because it means you don't lose. And in isolation, it's perhaps okay, but football isn't in isolation. You have to look at a bigger picture. It is 1 win in 15, like you said. A win today probably puts silence to anyone saying that we're in a relegation battle. I don't think we are. I know that you mentioned before that some people are just resolute in saying that we aren't in one. I don't think we are, because I think a lot of results have to go against us for that to happen. Granted, we are against a lot of those teams, so they're almost like 6-pointers, aren't they? But I'd be confident that we'll stay up. As for how I felt, like I said, happy that we got the equaliser, but it's not good enough. We didn't need a draw. We didn't need a draw. We needed to win, because at least then the lads could have said, right, yeah, we got that win. Let's now go on this mini run. Fact of the matter is, it's 1 win in 15. And I know Andy said just then that people would obviously love to be in our position. We shouldn't be in this position. So that's just, I agree with him. When you compare to teams they're now fighting against, yeah, we're probably in the box seat, if you will, but it's not a position we should be in. I know that football, over the course of the season, the table is fair, and you end up where you end up because that's where you deserve to be. But with the team we've got, it shouldn't be the case. So it's brilliant that we got the equaliser. Superb. I was happy. Watched the live stream, the watch along, and that was brilliant. Loved seeing the lads smile for once. But it's still a joke. It's just a joke. Like, it's too little too late, really, for me, because it was a good performance today. And I think maybe 10 games ago, I'm perhaps saying, yeah, it shows that Mowbray's still got the lads and Mowbray's still the man. But that is long, long gone now.
Yeah, indeed. I'm just going to dip into the comments before we move on from that. Barfly. Oh, sorry, I'm controlling the comments down as you should be doing that. Barfly, guess we have to take small mercies and inch our way to survival. Still think the situation needs looking at the end of the season. Yeah, Barfly, I think that most Rovers fans will agree with that. Just because we've got the stoppage time equaliser at Cardiff today and we've looked good in that second half, doesn't ultimately change what Rovers fans are thinking about this manager, etc., etc. Michael Pearson then goes on to say, should be safe enough now, 1 win away with the goal difference. Yeah, Michael, I think you, Tom and Andy have, articulated really well there that we're not in a relegation battle. I'm just one of these, I'm just like, teams like Rotherham, plucky Rotherham, it's just like that type of stuff that always makes me anxious and makes me nervous, but we should be okay. Wayne, first half wasn't weird. It was garbage again, but a much better second half. Can you fellas explain that, formation, etc.? We will get on to the substitutions and other things in particular, Wayne, most certainly, because that was a really good round of Tony Tombola, I think, absolutely. And then Luke, Tom, spot on. We shouldn't be in this position at this stage of the season. We weren't talking like this in October, November. So, yeah, that's some of the thoughts that we've had from the Rovers viewers. Ross, I'm just going to come back to you, just to go into the game into a little bit of detail, just maybe to talk about some of the players. Who stood out for you today from a Rovers perspective and who had a really good performance for you?
Tribal. Thought he showed a bit of commitment, was buzzing around quite a lot, putting the tackles in. I don't think anyone overly stood out. I think they played well without doing anything spectacular. All right, Armstrong scores 2 goals, but to be fair, that keeper should have saved the first one. All right, Gallagher started off slowly, but then probably the second half started really well. It had then chances. So like I said, Tribal was the main standout without doing anything amazing. He was all over. He seemed like he was all over the pitch at times, but there was no one else really stood out. Like I say, I think they all played okay without standing out.
Yeah, and stand and stare just in the comments, Paul there. Tribal, definitely my man of the match. No one else sparkled. That kind of echoes what you were saying there, Ross, that it was kind of just standard performances from most of them. And I agree on Tribal. I thought he was absolutely fantastic today. He got that last-ditch tackle on Kiefer Moore in the first half. He just seemed to be really winning the ball back and being really firm in the tackle in that central midfield area and seemed to be just all over the park, as you say. And I was absolutely flabbergasted when he was one of the people to be brought off in those 5 substitutions. I just don't know what the thinking was there. But, he can count himself very unlucky that he's not ended that game. And Ross, I'm just going to stick with you, and then I'll move across to Andy as well. Tom Trybull is a player that has featured in a lot of talk in Rovers fans about, signings for next season, etc., etc. Would you be trying to get Tom Trybull for next season for Blackburn Rovers based on what you've seen in this second half of the season in particular?
Yeah, I think he has shown fight, which a lot of the players who actually are contracted to us haven't shown. So I would be trying to get him on loan if it's on a permanent. Sorry, if it's possible. Obviously, I don't know the finances. I don't know what his wages are at Norwich and that. But if we could get him in on full time, I would definitely take him.
Yeah, definitely. He's one that I want. And I just think there's some uncertainty around Joe Rothwell's contract, and we don't know what's going to happen with Holtby, and, who knows what's going to happen with Bradley Johnson long-term, etc., etc. Tom Trybull's a player that I certainly want, absolutely. Andy, I'm going to come to you. Adam Armstrong today was a player, particularly second half, who I could see he was trying to affect the game. There were times when he was running with the ball, trying to make things happen. His first goal, I actually think, ironically, he should have passed, but obviously he had the left foot shot that then squirmed under Alex Smithies. And then second half, he had a shot where he ran at the defence and then hit it just wide. He was trying to make things happen. What's your view on Adam Armstrong? Do you think he is too greedy at times? Do you think he's trying too hard? Is the cynic in you saying, right, he's definitely playing to get that next big move? What's your view on Adam Armstrong and him at Blackburn Rovers?
Obviously, he's been a revelation this season. I think the accusation that he's greedy, I don't buy that. And some people might disagree with me in this, but I think that he doesn't feel as if he's got support coming in from Brereton and Gallagher. So he almost feels like he's got to do it all himself. He's not had a consistent partner playing sort of like in the hole behind him. And he probably just feels he's looking left and right. There's constantly changes in the team. If it's Dolan, if it's Elliott, if it's Brereton, if it's Gallagher. So rather than taking a risk on a player he's not 100% sure on, he's just going for it himself. Plus, he's got 20 goals this season. When was the last time we had a player that had 20 goals in a season? So he's a good player. I'd love it if he would stay. I'm not sure he will, but I'd love it if he would stay, just so we can build that team around him. Whereas we would have built it around Dak previously, that's obviously not going to happen now. So if we can build a team around him, then I think good things could happen at the top end of the pitch.
Yeah, definitely. And Tom, I just want to come to you. Luke's picked it out in the comments as well. Douglas solid today. And then obviously goes on to say Trybull for me, unfortunate to get hold off. Barry Douglas today, obviously desperately unlucky with that free kick that hit the postage stamp. And then he was also unlucky. I thought he played an absolutely sensational pass to Bradley Johnson when he hit the post as well. I think we have started to see Barry Douglas in recent weeks probably being that player that we thought we were going to get when we did sign him from Leeds. Yes, he had the 15 assists at Wolves, and maybe we're all looking to that. And yes, he hasn't scored. But I thought Barry Douglas today played well. What was your views on Barry Douglas?
Yeah, I think Douglas was okay. I think we've seen him fit some flashes. He was desperately unlucky with the free kick. It was some free kick because literally probably an inch lower, and it's just perfect because it's right in the top corner. So that's obviously disappointing for him. I thought he was solid enough defensively. I think if you look at the goals scored, the mistakes, and often I find that the mistakes tend to come from the flanks, but today they didn't. There was obviously the free kick that was laid off and we didn't close the shot down and get the foot in. And then as much as we lord over Thomas Kaminski, it was a bit of a rubbish kick out, wasn't it? But Douglas, yeah, it wasn't. He didn't make any mistakes. I think it was solid, like Luke said. Trybull was a man of the match, but Douglas was a close second. I'd have no qualms bringing him in. I know we're getting Picker in, but you can't just rely on someone that's not played above League One, and he's young. I think he's a great player from what I've seen and what I've been told. Like I trust Joe and Andy both back to his quality with stats. So I trust that we've got a really good player in our hands with him. But you also need someone that's seasoned pro, the seasoned veteran. So if Douglas be willing to come in and say, accept that he might not be starting every week, I'd 100% be looking at getting him on a more permanent basis. Though I think that would be tough, knowing that he's not going to be starting week in, week out, because that's why he left Leeds, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree with you, Tom. I'd love there to be an existence where next season we do have Harry Pickering and Barry Douglas as our two left backs, but I just can't see it. I think you're absolutely right. Barry Douglas will know that there'll be other offers out there and other championship clubs that would love to take him on. And we've probably put all of our eggs in the Harry Pickering basket for next season. So I just can't see those two coexisting, unfortunately, and which would be a shame, because that would be amazing to have those two. You know, Barry Douglas teaching Harry Pickering as a left back would just be fantastic. It's
just like tutelage, isn't it? You need that sometimes, and you've seen it. I guess you sort of saw it with Danny Graham and Bradley Dack. Danny Graham clearly had Dack under his wing and really brought the best out of Dack. And you'd like to think that if it was like a Barry Douglas Harry Pickering combination where Douglas basically took Pickering under his wing, he'd become an even better player. But like you say, I think it probably is a little bit unrealistic because Douglas won't be short of offers.
Yeah, sure. And Juice has picked that up in the comments there. Pickering could use an experienced pro like Douglas in his ear. It would be absolutely amazing if we could get that, Juice. But unless we've got a really good convincer in there. So unfortunately, I can't see it happening, and he'll obviously go to the best suitor in the summer. Ross, I just want to come to you just to talk about an incident in the game, which obviously I love Thomas Kaminski. He's my favourite man. But I do think he should have been sent off today. Regardless of what happened earlier on in that passage of play, I do think that Rovers should have had a free kick from a handball from Cardiff. Anyway, that wasn't given. Then the passage of play developed and Kaminski was out of his area, unsurprisingly, brought down Harry Wilson. Did we get away with one today that Kaminski stayed on that pitch?
Yeah, he did, definitely. He should have been sent off in my eyes. If that was the other way around, we'd have been crying for him to have been sent off. So I think he got away with it with Lenihan covering as the defender who was right behind him, but he probably should have gone. And like that is hard work because he has been excellent for us this season. You know, he's possibly been our player of the season because he has been so good for what we got him for, and definitely should have been sent off today. But I'll take it. I'll definitely take it that he's not got it, and we live to fight another day with that one.
Yeah, we do. And Andy, I'm just going to, I know you didn't watch the game, but I can ask you this question just objectively. If I said to you before the game that in exchange for your goalkeeper not being sent off when he should, you're going to hit the woodwork 3 times, that's how your luck goes in a game, you probably would take that, wouldn't you? So you got to kind of take the rough with the smooth in terms of how luck goes, haven't you?
Absolutely. You hit the woodwork 3 times. However, Kaminski's back up. If he'd been sent off and we'd been sort of T3 above the relegation zone and he'd been suspended for 3 games, would you be confident in the backup keeper at playing 3 games like that? And I certainly wouldn't, based on his brief performances this season. So, yeah, I would take that all day long. It's a no-brainer, to be honest with you. It really is.
You're right. And actually, I didn't think about it just in isolation of the game today. You're right. Going into that big Derby game next week, then Sheffield Wednesday and Huddersfield. Derby and Huddersfield are the 2 games I picked out. God, if we've got 𝐒𝐎𝐍𝒆𝒔 in goal, with the greatest respect to him, I'm less confident. So you're right, picking that out. I didn't think about the 3-match suspension, most certainly. And Ross, I'm just going to stick with you if I can. Then Lewis Travis came back into the side today, and it's been a strange one with Lewis Travis because Tony Mowbray couldn't wait to get him back into the side in January. In my mind, I think he rushed him back in January for that game against Birmingham. I think he came into the side far too soon. All of a sudden, Mowbray's now saying he's not injured. He just needs to get, so he's done a complete kind of 180-degree turn on Travis to say he'll be in when he's in. How do you think Lewis Travis did today for you? How did he play?
Like I say, he played okay without doing anything spectacular. I think he was given a bit more license to get forward. But I think you're right. He was rushed back again in that Birmingham game. Mowbray put all his eggs in 2 baskets. Travis coming back and Dack coming back. And since that has happened, we've not really picked up from where we were. We've gone the opposite way, and I just think he did rush him back. And then, like you said, the last few weeks he's been out of the team and saying he's not fully fit. And it's like, well, he wasn't probably fully fit when you brought him back, but you still played him. And now you're doing the complete opposite. I think Mowbray's kind of losing his head a little bit with his decision making. But I think he did all right today, Travis, without doing anything spectacular. He buzzed about the pitch a little bit, and he was trying. So yeah, he was, like I say, he was okay, but nothing spectacular.
Mm. Oh, Tom, you're muted, man. I can see your mouth moving.
My mouth was moving. Lights are on, but no one's on type thing. No, just to interject there with what you were saying, Ross, with Trav. I think he was okay without doing anything spectacular. What I would say is with Travis, I think he looks better in a team that tends to battle more. So the team of last season and the season before, where perhaps the quality on the ball wasn't as good, Travis really stood out because he gets stuck in, flying to challenges, put his foot on the ball and just pass it. Now we're moving away from it, where we're the ones having more of the ball. I don't notice him as much, which is why I think he probably goes under the radar a little bit, because he doesn't do anything good as such. When I say good, I mean he's not a Harvey Elliott where he makes an unbelievable pass and sort of flicks it round someone. And because now we're having more of the ball, you're not necessarily seeing him fly into these challenges and winning those 50-50s that we loved seeing him win. So I think that we just don't notice him as much anymore. And I think maybe in my head, I don't see him as important as he once was. And I do think he's important because I think he's a tremendous player. And to lose him, if rumours are to be believed, would be obviously just a travesty. But he's one of them where I think in this new style, he doesn't fit in as well. And that's just me. I obviously welcome people to disagree with me in the comments and obviously on the panel. But I just think in this style where we are having more of the ball, his style of play doesn't necessarily benefit that, because he is quite good on the ball, but it's more the simple stuff. And I think we've got someone like Tom Tribal who's doing that, where he's winning the ball and he's just that little bit better with those passes, which is why Tribal was the man of the match today, because when he won the ball in that transition, I think it was pretty good with the ball at his feet. Like I said, I'd welcome people to disagree, because I think Travis at the moment is a tricky one, a real tricky one.
I think you're right, Tom. I think I don't know what the percentage difference is between Rovers last season compared to this, but obviously we're having a lot more of the ball now, and Tribal is your atypical metronome type player, isn't it? Where things are going into him and he's popping that ball off and really neat and tidy in possession. And you're right. I think Travis isn't that type of player. He's doing the stuff that you say. So I agree. But I'll come to Andy and then Ross first. Andy, and any views on what Tom's just said there about Lewis Travis and how he fits into the style of play with Rovers at the moment?
I actually think he's regressed as a player, to be honest with you, since he came into the team originally. When he came into the team originally, I thought he was like an energetic, ball-winning, spraying the passes about, getting the thing moving. Whereas now he seems to be concentrating more on winding players up, and because he's getting booked, it's sort of taken away from his game. And like I say, we've got Tribal's more composed. And if we are going to play this on the grass, pass, move, as opposed to sort of like in-your-face style of football, I don't see where Travis fits into the team, to be honest. I can see why people like him. He's a fan's favourite. He's come up through the ranks, blah, blah, blah. But if we're going to go this way of possession-based football, for want of a better phrase, I just don't see how he's got a long-term future starting 11, to be honest.
And Ross, with what Andy's just said there, I have seen some things on social media this week. I think we all agree that Rovers have got a great academy, and generally Mowbray does play young players. But actually, if we look at what's gone on with David Raya, what's probably going to happen with Ryan Nyambe, and if Lewis Travis, all of a sudden, who last season was one of the first names on the team sheet, and this season with what Andy's saying, which I don't disagree with what he's saying with, for the record, How does Lewis Travis go from a player whose first name on the team sheet to probably being someone you could make a case for not being in the starting 11 now? You know, what is going on with Mowbray blooding in these youngsters and making them fixtures of our first team?
I think what Tom and Andy have alluded to is like Tribal has come in and Tribal's probably better on the ball. I don't see Travis as someone to sit there and dictate the play like Tribal can do when he gets the ball off the back four. I think Travis is more of a sort of like an old box-to-box midfielder probably than someone who'll get the ball off the back four and spray passes around and that. I think you have to look at the kind of Richie Smallwood situation. We had when we were in League One, first name on the team sheet every game, and then we moved up to upper league, and you can't. All right, probably not good enough, and that's why we let him go. And I just think, like Andy says, Travis probably regressed a little bit. I think the way we've changed our style of football. I don't think it suits him overly too well. I think he's someone who's better winning the ball back and just basically just tackling anyone that moves almost, and that's kind of what he does. I do think it with regards to like bringing youngsters up, he does do that well, Mowbray, and he has done that. And I think, to be honest, if David Raya, he was a good keeper. Was he irreplaceable? No, not now. Well, not now anyway. Now we've got Kaminski. Nyambe, is he irreplaceable? No. You've got Joe Rankin Costello there. So, and is Travis irreplaceable? No. No one's irreplaceable in this team at the moment. And I just think we have progressed the way we want to play, how we want to play football. And I just think maybe it doesn't suit Travis as much, like Tom said.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting observation, Tom, and what you've said there, setting off this whole conversation. I just want to move us on, though. With the Grand National in the middle, we have had the time for Tony Mowbray to be in front of the press, and Dan has done his work with the overlays just to show us what Tony Mowbray has been saying to Rick Sharp and the Lancs Telegraph. So Dan will just run through these three things. So first one, with 20 shots, you have to score more goals and win these games. We didn't lose. They showed spirit. They showed character, and we'll try and find the positives. We didn't accept defeat after the ridiculous goal we gave away. He went on to say, it's pretty typical. We tend to like going behind. That's a common theme of going a goal down, and it's pretty tough to win football matches when you go a goal down. And then he finished off that interview with, I think it would have been harsh on us to lose that game, but we scored a late goal. We could have scored more goals, should have scored more, but we'll move on to the next game. So, Tom, I'm going to come to you on these post-match reviews. I've just been apoplectic at times with how Mowbray has spoken in the press. To be fair, he's not compared us to a different side today. And to be fair, he's made some good points in there that you've got to take your chances and things like that. We are Blackburn Rovers fans at the end of the day. So when we hit the woodwork for the third time under Barry Douglas, were you fearing that sucker punch from Cardiff? And when it happened, were you just thinking, oh, here we go again, and just thinking we've lost our chance?
No, definitely. I think you boys summed it up on the live stream perfectly on the watch along as well, where it was just one of them where you need to make the chances pay because it's going to cost you. And it did. Thankfully, obviously, we got the point. But it's gutting to see that you come in so close, and that it is so close, but time and time again we were thwarted. And I think part of that's got to come down to poor finishing. Johnson should have scored. To be fair to Gallagher, his shot was from distance, and it wasn't necessarily a clear-cut chance. A good chance, but not clear-cut like Johnson's. And with Douglas's, it's, again, crossbar, gutting. Mowbray's spot on with his comments. I mean, you hit the post 3 times. We didn't deserve to lose. We didn't lose. But to go back to what I said at the top of the programme, like, it wasn't a win, was it? So we can sit there and rue the fact we hit the post 3 times. But it's taken a man that we're relying too heavily on that is probably going to be sold to bag us 2 goals. Granted, one of them very lucky. The second one is really well, actually, because I think he trips over his own feet and still somehow manages to have the composure to slot it beyond Smithies. But yeah, I thought when Douglas hit the post, it was almost as if And it was just typical that obviously on iFollow you missed the goal because they were showing the replay of Douglas hitting the post. So it was almost poetic, wasn't it, in terms of, yeah, we've missed that. And then they've gone right up the other end and scored straight away. It's football, though, isn't it? It's the way it goes. If it was easy, everyone would do it, wouldn't
they? Yeah, they would. But Andy, I'm going to come to you because there is one part of what Mowbray said to Rich Sharp which has annoyed me, which is the middle one of those that Dan prepared. The one where he says, it's pretty typical. We tend to like going behind. That's a common theme of going a goal down. It's pretty tough to win football matches when you go a goal down. So how many times have we gone a goal down in this run of 1 win in 15 games? We must have gone a goal down, 14, 13 times? Let's stop bloody going a goal down. There was an air of inevitability today with, as I said, the first 10 minutes was really frantic. Cardiff and Rovers were going at each other. But then it just felt like Cardiff were getting that stronghold in the game. And Harry Wilson had a chance. And then they did get the chance from the free kick. And it's just like, oh, Cardiff 1-0 up. We have got to stop going behind in football matches, haven't we? It's all right him saying it's a common theme of going a goal down. He can't reel that out when 13 or 14 times over the last 15 games. That's exactly what we've bloody done, isn't it?
I agree with you to a certain extent. However, Cardiff away is always a tough fixture. To go 1 down and to come back and then to go down again, come back again. Like you could say the team's resolute. Yeah, there's been a bit of luck in the goals. But where we shouldn't be going 1-0 down is Wycombe away. And teams like that, that's where we shouldn't be conceding. Everybody knows the style of football that a team like Wycombe plays. They're at you. They're in your face. Watching that game against Wycombe last week, they fancied that. They knew that if they could get in our faces, get in front, they had a really good chance of beating us. And it's those games where you think, oh, you shouldn't be going behind. Cardiff away, I can accept going behind because they're a good team. They're strong at home. They're pushing for they were pushing-ish for the playoffs. I don't mind that so much, but he seems to be too honest at times in terms of things that he's saying in the dressing room. He's also saying to the press, and fans know it, but they don't want to be hearing it. And that's where he seems to, as the season's gone by, he's just sort of, he seems to care and care less what he's saying, and if it riles people, if it riles fans, or if it brings questions over his future, doesn't seem to be bothered. And when we started so well, and we've just sort of been on a downward curve for what feels like months and months and months and months, then I can understand then why fans get the hump when he comes out with these blasé comments.
Yeah, and you've articulated it much better than I have, Andy. It's just when he says that going a goal down is typical in football. No, it's not. Not when you're going a goal down 13 or 14 times over the last 15. But I absolutely take on board what you say about, going to Cardiff and going to Wycombe. Absolutely agree with what you said.
Got a question why he's not working on it as well. He's coming out saying that we keep doing this. Why? That's the question. Why do you keep doing this? If you can clearly see that's what's happening, why haven't you done something to put a stop to it? Or why haven't you done something to try and put a stop to it? I think he sort of did today, playing the 3 defensive midfielders or the hold midfielders, but still, why is it taking you 15 games into this run for you to come out and say, yeah, we often go behind, don't we? I don't want to swear, but obviously, no, Sherlock. Like, obviously, that's what happens. Work on it, do something about it, and sort it out.
Definitely. Ross, I'm going to come back to you and just talk about one of the big things that did happen in the game. When Rovers were 2-1 down, the Tony Tombola was quite remarkable on around 70, 75 minutes. I can't remember what time it was. 5 substitutions all at once. I mean, first and foremost, have you ever seen that? And secondly, when he made those changes, did it just have an air of desperation? Did it feel like he was necessarily changing the system or the outlook of that game in any way, shape or form? What did you make of those 5 changes?
I think we have seen it before, haven't we? All of us. Hasn't Mowbray done it before?
Might have done 4.
He did it in I can't remember who it was against, but I'm sure he's done.
He's definitely done 4.
Right. Well,
he's done 5. He's done 4, 100%.
Well, it doesn't surprise me if he's done 4. Why not do 5? You know what I mean? I think I was watching the watch along, and I think I said it's like a kids' game. Everyone's here. We better give everyone a game. throw the subs on for the last 5 minutes type thing. That's what it felt like. It didn't feel like it was going to change the game, to be honest with you. I didn't. After Cardiff's second goal, we kind of it knocked us off our stride because we were playing well up until that point, and that goal knocked us off our stride. And it just seemed like Mowbray just went, "Oh, well, I'll just make 5 changes. We'll just make 5 changes and see what happens," kind of thing. I don't think there was any thought. That was the only thought process going on. I'll just make 5 changes and see what. Hopefully, it'll work out. And it's just crazy. It's as I said, I was watching the watch along, and I think Luke said, "Why are we've been on this bad run now for 15 games, 1 win in 15 games. Why is he not changing the way we play? Why not go back to what he did before this season a little bit, just to mix it up, just to give us a bit of a different idea, a different way of going about it?" But it just seems to be, I want to play possession football now, and that's it. It reminds me of Arsene Wenger when he was at Arsenal, the way he's just being real stubborn at the moment. And it's worrying because I look at the fixtures and I do worry about where we're going to pick up points, because it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy the next 5-6 games, whatever's left now. But it smacked of desperation, and let's just go with it and see what happens. And luckily, we've managed to get a goal and get a point out of it. But there was no tactics involved. It was just like, you 5, you can go on. You've turned up.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, because there was no change in system, because all he did was change the midfield 3. They went off, and then Brio went left for Sam Gallagher. Dolan went right for Harvey Elliott, and we kept the same system, didn't we? And as you say, we just kept exactly the same pattern of play, exactly the same style. Let's just obviously concede the fact we did equalise, so I'm not saying that those changes didn't result in the goal at the end of the day, but it just felt like it was like for like, no change in the pattern of play, no change in the style, as you say. Sorry, Ross.
He's probably just thinking now, "Oh, well, I've done it. It worked." He's probably shocked that it worked himself. He's probably sat there at home now thinking, "I didn't think that would work. I've done it somehow." He's probably shocked himself that it's actually worked. It's just crazy. There's no thought process involved. It's just give these 5 15 minutes at the end of the game. They've turned up. They've trained hard this week. We'll throw them on and see what happens.
Yeah, and I think if there was some active thought process in there, Tom Trybull would have stayed on the pitch for me. He was hands down the man of the match, and he hands down could have carried on contributing in the role that he was at that point in time. So, yeah, it was just an odd. And just looking in the comments, Michael, the 5 subs illustrate Mowbray doesn't really have a plan, all in hope. And then Paul, 5 subs at once, just no decision. Taking off some players who were contributing is not rational. Tom, I just want to come to you. Luke Howard asked a question about 5 minutes ago. John Buckley, not in this squad. Now, again, I asked a question to Ross earlier about Raya, Nyambi, Travis, etc., etc. John Buckley is another one cutting that cloth. John Buckley, to his credit, came in and played really well away at Millwall, played really well against Swansea, and they are 2 of our most positive results in the last 15 games that we've had, 1 win and 1 draw. For John Buckley to now not even be in this squad, like, what is going on there, do you think? And are you surprised that he's not in there?
I'd like to think it's like injury based, but I don't want it to be any word that it is. And I think it would have been said before the game if it was. So I think he's just not in the squad. To me, it's nonsensical. Mowbray's championed John Buckley, actually, because I'm going to hold my hands up and say last season or the season before, didn't rate him that highly. I was wrong, because he's proven this season to be a player that we need, a player that we will benefit from. And I can hold my hands up and say I got that one wrong. Why now, when he's put in some of his best performances in a Blackburn Rovers shirt, is he not in the team? Now, I fine, don't start him. Fine. Today, like I said, he went with that 3 in midfield who are going to be combative, ratty, and just kick, basically, the other team. And that's fine. I get it. I understand the thought process with that. But to not have John Buckley even in your squad when you know what he can do with the ball, how his weight of pass is perfect most of the time, is bizarre. I can't work it out. It's almost like Mowbray. I know we call it. We laugh Tony's tombola, but it is. It's like he's there and he just picks these names out of it. He has these ones that he'll definitely put in the squad if they're available, and the rest of them, it's names out of a hat. Brereton's another one. I know you spoke about him on the live. All of a sudden, frozen out after his injury, which is bizarre because he was playing some really good football prior to his injury. And I get since he's come back, he's not perhaps done as much, but the man management seems to be from the outside abysmal. You're hearing rumours, of arguments with Travis and Nyambe. Believe that what you will. I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't have any sources at the club, so I have not got a clue. But if that's true, and you know that there was problems with Raya previously, where is his man management coming from? Like Ross said, these players aren't irreplaceable. You can replace every single one. You can replace John Buckley quite easily, but you have to question why Mowbray keeps doing this. Because it's all the time, and it tends to be with players that Rovers fans love as well. Ray was beloved. Whether we think Kaminski's a better goalkeeper or not, Ray was a huge loss last season when we had Walton in there. It just doesn't make sense to me. I think you're alienating your players, and that's bad. I think that's why there's these rumours, I think, and that's why people are saying on Twitter that he's maybe lost the dressing room, because he does just seem to pick players. He's like got his favourites, and then the other ones are be damned. I'll use you as a scapegoat. Ryan Nyambe example this season. I think someone mentioned it in the comments at a blinder against Forest, and then was left. They didn't know them blamed for being injury prone or something like that. What's all that about?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? It's just I've lauded Mowbray for doing this big rebuild. I think he started something. And I tweeted the other day, he's just undoing that now, because I just feel that he's going to leave us, if he leaves in the summer, in a pretty bad position, because I don't think he can control the players. I don't think his man management's very good. Or maybe it was when we had these big characters like Danny Graham in, and now we've lost them big characters. He sort of lost hold of it, because there's been quite a significant amount of turnover, really, in terms of players. That's why the system's so different. But I don't know. It beggars belief, to be honest with you. I don't know why he's not in the squad.
No, and I'm just going to, as we always do, try and do on Rovers Chat, just in the interest of balance. The substitutes for Rovers today were Downing, Holtby, Pears, Bell, Davenport, Brereton, Branthwaite, Bennett, Dolan, which on paper looks a pretty strong bench. And Mowbray's obviously come out before and said that we've got a really deep squad this season. We were all excited about that before the season, that we've got lots of options. So maybe with it being Cardiff away and the fact he's gone for that Travis Tribal Johnson midfield, maybe he's just fancied Jacob Davenport more than John Buckley today to be that midfielder to come on and make that impact. So in the interest of balance, I'm just going to offer that as a counter view. But Tom, I'm absolutely with you. After the performances that John Buckley has had over these last few weeks, you know, I'm baffled that he's not making the squad at least, and he's obviously been a casualty of the larger squad that we have now. Andy, just in the final 10 minutes or so, and before we end the stream, just want to look towards the future as a Blackburn Rovers fan. Really feels like Groundhog Day at the moment, getting excited about stuff and whatever. But do the club have a problem brewing at the moment? I see it in the comments every single live stream that I do, on the watch alongs, on the other side, on this and Twitter and everything that I see. There are a lot of disillusioned fans at the moment that do not want Tony Mowbray as this manager. The club at some point are going to have to be attracting people to fork out at really difficult times for your working class man and woman. The people are going to be forking out for season tickets, and the club have got to do something to attract people to part with their money who have not had the habit of going to football for a while. If this season peters out in the way it is, and I know that you've said there's no fear of relegation, so let's say this season peters out and we come 19th, 10 points clear of relegation, but ultimately it ends up as like 1 win in 20 games or 2 wins in 22 games or whatever. Have you got a fear that the club might lose a generation or lose a significant percentage of fans when arguably we need them the most next season?
It's a tough question. It's a good question. It's a tough question. I think a lot of people will go back to football next season just for the social aspect of things. They've got a ticking time bomb in terms of the contract. I know Mowbray's come out today and said, "Oh yeah, we'll just sort of like renew the 12-month option on a lot of players." If those players don't want that option renewed, then they might start creating, making noises. They've got the agent in Mowbray's ear, player wants to move, etc., etc. When the loan players go back, and say we lose half the out of contract players, I think the squad's in a very difficult position, and the club should be planning now for his replacement. Because if he sort of limps on till the end of the season and then staggers on through the summer, the fans are back. We lose the first home game to, say, Coventry. The fans are going to be right on his back straight away. Take that out of the equation, replace him now, and then let's have a bit of a positive restart to things with a fresh manager, a fresh impetus, a fresh season. And it's in the club's hands to sort of try and make things as appealing as they can. However, they seem to be just drifting at the moment, with Steve Waggett just invisible other than when he's trying to sell off half a Brockhall. Nothing from the owners as per. People, it's more difficult for fans to feel connected with the club when they're not going to the ground. The iFollow figures show that hardly anybody's watching the games. I know loads of guys who don't even bother. I probably don't even know the result from today, and they're season ticket holders for years and years and years. So the club have got a big job on their hands, but it's in their power to sort of make those decisions to re-engage with the fans. I mean, they should be re-engaging with the fans now. There's nothing at all. It is a worrying time, and you can just see it drifting into next season with nothing changing really, unfortunately.
And that re-engagement, Andy, I think the last couple of weeks, and I said it on the watch along, this social media blackout that the clubs seem to have done at the moment, where we're not hearing from the players anymore. They're not even coming out with these token statements of on to the next game and that type of. We're not even seeing that anymore. And that re-engagement and that connection that we've had with the players, which, to be fair, I lost that completely in the 16-17 season. And to be fair to Tony Mowbray and all the people supporting him off the pitch, he helped rebuild that when we got promoted from League One. And I felt as connected to Rovers, arguably, as I'd ever been. But that is just being so frittered away now. And it's really, really disturbing that arguably when we need these players the most, when we need Waggett to come out the most, when we need Mowbray to come out the most and give us something to reassure us as fans and reconnect us and re-engage us, at our time of need the most, we're not getting that. And Andy, I'm just going to stick with you. Does that hurt you as a fan as well?
I'm not really one of those people that sort of like follows players on social media. I'm a bit old for all that kind of thing, to be honest with you. But it's like any situation. If you're in a bad place and you're putting your head above the parapet, you're asking for trouble in some respects. So I can sort of see why, not a blackout, but they're just sort of not putting themselves there to be shot. The best way they can go about it is to start getting results on the pitch. Draw your away games, win your home games. Football's all about winning games. All the other issues, Brockhall, contracts, all that goes away if the team is winning games, playing well, winning games. It's just but it's been constantly negative since the turn of the year, really. So I can understand it in some respects. I really can. I can understand it in some respects, because sort of like this might sound a bit controversial, but younger fans, they don't think anything twice of giving players stick on social media. So why put yourself in that position in the first place?
Yeah, and it hurts. It does hurt. I don't condone any of the comments that people get as fans and as players. Sorry, and certainly not things like racism or anything like that. So you're absolutely right, Andy. When people are sticking their head above the parapet, they're going to get that. Ross, I just want to come to you just on this issue. Then Tom made the point that after a really, really good rebuild, and starting this season with arguably the strongest squad that we'd had in a while, that strength in depth that we've spoken about, if Tony was to go at the end of the season, are you fearful also for the position that he does leave us in with, some of the players that might not be here and some of the depth that we might not have? And and some of the contracts that might not be signed. Are you worried about next season or the transition that we might be in next season?
Yes, in a way. I think it all depends on who we would get in to replace Mowbray. That's the biggest question, isn't it? We can all sit here and say, oh, this might happen, that might happen, but it's going to depend on the manager we get in. You know, the contracts I find unbelievable that we've got 10 players out of contract in the summer. How can you have 10 players out of contract at the same time? I think it's poor business management. The loanees, you know, most clubs get loans in, so I'm not too fussed about that. But you look at today, 4 of them started the game, so we're relying on, you know, over nearly half of our first 11 being loanees. I thought we were trying to move away from that at the beginning of the season, really. So I am worried about next season a little bit. It all depends on what happens. Can I see the owners getting rid of the manager at the moment? The current situation would say not. You know, look, what other manager would go 15 games and 1 win? It wouldn't happen in any other club. Look at, you know, don't like to look at other teams too much, but look at Preston. They go for a bit of a rough patch. Alex Neil's out the door, and then you get that usual boost afterwards, don't you? More often than not, of someone else coming in with new ideas, gives you a few wins, and you're thinking differently again. Like Andy said, if you're winning games, everything else is forgotten, and we've won 1 in 15. So I am worried about next season. I am worried about the future of the club at the moment. I think there's a lot of issues. Obviously, us as fans, we find out and we know we fight back against, and it is a concerning time with the optimism. I mean, at the beginning of this season, I'm usually one of these that mid-table or pushing for playoffs, I'm happy. If we get playoffs, brilliant. If we don't, but we're kind of in the mix, fine. At the beginning of the season, exactly like that. Then the deadline signings came in, and I think like everyone else, I was boosted, and I'm thinking, do you know what? We've got a shot here of making it. We could easily get in the top 6 with this squad of players that we have. And for some reason, since the turn of the year, I don't know what has happened. This team has just imploded massively. And I think, as Andy said, maybe I don't think we will go down, but it's Rovers, and it's in. You look at some of them fixtures, the teams we've got to play, and you think we lose 2 or 3 of them games, we are in it. There's a chance we're in the relegation zone. So it's just been it's a typical Rovers season, really. I suppose it's just flatters to deceive and gets you all excited and lets you down straight out of the blue. But like I say, it's just the way we've imploded has, I think, shocked everyone really, and it is a worry for next season. Because, like I say, you hear people saying, "Oh, who would you?" on social media saying, "Who would you take? Would you have this person? Let's do a poll on this and that." And I look around and I do wonder who we will get in. I mean, I don't know who I'd pick myself. I think there are some okay choices out there, but you don't know which way it's going to go. I wasn't overly excited when Mowbray came in. Didn't fill me with confidence, but he changed my mind. All right, we still went down, but he had him playing and he got straight back up and he's done for the club. I'll never feel brilliant, but I think his time's up. But then, like I said, I really worry about getting the position we're in the summer, because with that many players out of contract and then the final loan going back, that's half his squad's gone. And we've not got much, according to reports, we've not got much of a budget for transfers in the summer. So it's a worrying situation, definitely.
Yeah, it is. And Steve's picked up what you said there at 10-7. I don't see what Preston are doing. They made the change but failed to find a replacement. you have to assume it would be the same for Rovers. And I think, yeah, the question is, who is going to be the next manager? I'm not going to open that can of worms on this post-match review because we're nearly out of time. But obviously, we do need to be careful with who the next manager is. Tom, I'm going to give you the final word just on something that I think in this run of 1 win in 15 and then all of the other associated things like the Brockall training development and all of that type of stuff. I think one thing for me that's probably come back into my focus as a fan, and I hold my hands up, I was really happy for Venky's to keep signing the blank checks, the blind checks over these last few years. And I was one of those fans that sat here and went, oh, these owners, to be fair, to their credit, etc., have put their hand in their pocket. They've done this, they've done that. I hold my hands up. I was one of those fans. Actually, what the last few weeks has probably taught us is, and Michael's picked it up in the comments, the club haven't been progressive and forward-thinking in the last 10 years. We do still have a root problem, a root cause issue with this club, which actually is the ownership, isn't it? And the fact that the owners aren't good means that we don't have the right middle management in the club, which means that some of these other things that are happening. So for me, what's come back into my focus as a fan now is actually, yes, they've signed the checks, but they're not the best owners. And actually, a lot of things are stemming from the ownership of the club with what's happening on the pitch now, the contractual situations, the fact that the manager isn't being sacked, the lack of proper consultation around the training ground before it obviously got leaked. And obviously that annoyed a lot of fans. These all go back to the same root cause for me as a fan. And that's come back into my focus, actually. How do you feel about that?
I think it's an interesting one with Venky's. I think it always has been. They're an enigma, and not in a good way. I was similar to you, and I think in a way I still am. I know people won't necessarily like that. I can understand that as well. For me, with the owners, no one was complaining about Steve Waggett when he first came in. I could go through tweets that I've tweeted. I can go through tweets of people on Rovers chat. I can go through tweets of other people where when we've been to consultation meetings, we've said we are now happy that someone like Steve Waggett is at the club because at least he has some direction. Now, things have come out recently. There's Brockall development. Opinions on that tend to be split depending on who you talk to, I think. I've stayed away from that because I don't want to depress myself with it, to be honest with you. But people weren't moaning about Steve Waggett until this bad run happened and until the Brockall development plans came out. That was done in a poor way. I think that the plans should have been announced rather than be found. As soon as those plans are put forward, the club should have been proactive and said, okay, this is what we're doing. And I think that would have potentially put to bed as well some of the people that were so sceptical. The issue is it came out from fans doing research and digging, and maybe someone heard something, they looked and thought, oh, that's true. The club was amateur in their ability in communicating. I think that's the biggest problem as well. You know, Venky's could walk away in a second, and if they do, we're in huge trouble. Again, I don't love them. I don't hate them anymore, though, either. I'm so indifferent to them. I don't care. Does that make sense? It
makes sense, Tom. And I think the point I'm just trying to make is obviously the teams that invariably get promoted to the Premier League, etc., have the good off the field structures, etc. And Barnsley are a team that we've spoken about a lot.
They do, but I think that until then, recently, people have been saying, and I know I've said it myself, I know Dan has said it when we've been to the meetings together, that we're now happy with the structure at the club because Venky's have took a back seat and Steve Waggett's taken control. That's been said by people. I know it has. I've seen it, and I get that people won't agree with me. I know there's a comment there. Fans have had issues with Waggett. I agree, people have. It's been said the Waggett tax, for example. But generally, I think people have been quite favourable to him. I think, from what I've seen at meetings and from what I've seen on Twitter, people have been happy that they've let football people run the club. Maybe I'm wrong. But
No, you're right, Tom. And losing runs and non-winning runs obviously don't help fan feeling and all of that type of stuff. But, just for me, it's kind of brought back into focus that actually, yeah, it's been a stable 3 or 4 years where I'd kind of forgotten about the owners. But actually, if I think about it a little bit, I can see some kind of root cause.
Well, it's a fair point. And they're, at the end of the day, the buck stops with them, doesn't it? They're the owners. Whoever they decide to put in charge and the decisions that they make, it does go back to them. Because if they bring in someone that's terrible, like Jerome Anderson, for example, God forbid mention his name on a live stream, but I have done.
You've done it now.
I've done it. Someone like Jerome Anderson, yeah, he was an issue, a huge issue, a complete, utter crook, but it stopped at the owners because they're the people that trusted them. And I get that completely, 100%. It's their fault. I just think with Swag, I don't mind Steve Waggett. I'm going to come out. I know people are going to hate me for that. I know they are. I'm okay with him, but I think his recent decisions have been questionable. Put it that way. The communication that he's had has been questionable, and the way that he has communicated to the fans has been questionable. I don't think it's as sinister as people think, but that's just my opinion, and I'm open to debate with that because that's what we're here for. We're here to start a conversation, and that's why I put myself on this platform. But yeah, I don't think he's necessarily got bad intentions. I think he's done a terrible job at communicating.
Yeah. I'm not going to open a massive can of worms with this one, which I nearly did with that, but it's just kind of how I'm feeling as a fan at the moment. But Andy, I'm going to give you the final word on this before we finish the stream. So I know you just want to say a couple of things on this as well.
Yeah, obviously I respect everyone's got the right to an opinion. However, Steve Waggett, for me, isn't good for Blackburn Rovers. I think he came in under dubious circumstances in hindsight with his links with Tony Mowbray and Mike Venus from Coventry. I think he's not a figurehead at the club. He is just there because the EFL required the club to have a CEO. I think 𝒂𝐄𝐎𝐿 is the man that actually pulls the strings on the day-to-day decision-making that he would. And he's the man who speaks to Venky's, not really probably Tony Mowbray or Steve Waggett, because if you were reporting into them on a regular basis, we've not won in like 5, we've not won in 10, we've not won in 15. You don't say those sort of things to your boss. So I don't see them having this open, transparent relationship with Venky's that they make out. I think over the last 12 months as a CEO of the football club, he's operated in a terrible manner. He's been virtually silent. You've not really seen him. The only time he's stuck his head up is about Brockle thing, and that's, let's face it, because he was forced to. Like, not rumbled, obviously, but it came out in a slapdash amateurish fashion. To blame staff being on furlough, we didn't have the people to sort of like put the press releases out and all that kind of business. I just don't buy it. People say that Venky's don't understand football. Now, if you're successful business people and you've got a business for 10 years and you're £200 million deep into that business, you make sure you understand it. I don't care how much money you've got. You understand that business. I think so many questions lead back to Venky's. Tom was saying about Jerome Anderson early doors. I think they were naive then. I think they had the pants pulled down, basically. Now it's either incompetence, they just don't care, or there's something more. But like I say, let's not open a can of worms there.
I think we've already done that a little bit, Andy, to be honest with you, between us.
Possibly, yeah, possibly.
We could absolutely debate this until the cows come home, and I'm just laughing because Avon B in the comments, where he says Andy is not Venus after all. When I saw that comment come up, you do have a little bit of a look about Mark Venus about you, Andy. If you take those glasses off, I think you do look a little bit like him. So
thankfully, I'm getting a haircut on Monday, so that'll be gone, thankfully.
I am with Avon B on that one. There is a little bit of Mark Venus about you. But no, I think what this whole discussion, for me, just articulates, whatever your views on Wagger or whatever, for me, the root cause is the ownership, and the fact that we don't have that good progressive ownership presence in this country, regular communication, etc., like you do see at some other clubs. And if that was in place, it would be influencing, as you say, Andy, how the other parts of the club are operating at the moment. So for me, it's just brought it all back into focus that actually, yes, whilst I've been happy that they spent 12 million on Gallagher and Brio at the time, and they've put their hands in their pocket and signed those checks, actually our root causes are still there, and that really has come to the fore over these last 15 games. So there we go. So I'm going to end it right there. We've gone over the hour. I am just going to thank Ross and Andy for being our very, very willing guests, and thank you both for joining us on the watch along as well. We're really grateful for all of the fans and viewers that join us on the watch alongs and all of our content, and even better when you can come and give your opinion. So Ross, thank you. You have a good evening as well, mate. Oh, and Andy.
Thanks very much for having me.
There he is. You froze a little bit. Sorry, Ross. And Andy, thank you for joining us as well, mate.
No problems. Thanks very much for having me. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you. And Tom, thank you for keeping me company. Good to have you back on the post-match stream. We all share in the pain together, and good that you've been able to join us as well. You have a good evening as well.
Yeah, you too, Ryan.
Nice one. Well, thank you all, Rovers fans. For those of you that have stuck with us all day on the watch-alongs, we can now go and have a hard-earned beer or wine or whatever your tipple is on a Saturday evening. Go and enjoy the rest of your evening. Just a few reminders. Joe Harvey and Andy Watson are doing a little show tomorrow, just previewing who Rovers could sign from League One. This is called The Best Talents. It'll be ran through the Rovers chat platform, so check that out tomorrow afternoon. I'm sure that will be really, really good. Before the next game, of course, I'll be on the other side previewing, for me, what is our biggest game of the season, actually. Derby County at home, where we can absolutely put to bed any kind of rumblings of relegation next week. So I'm really looking forward to that Derby game. So I'll be on the other side on Friday, and then we'll be back with our watch-along and post-match live streams, 2:30 for the watch-along. And then about 5:15, because there's no Grand National next week, of course, for the post-match review. So I will bid everyone farewell. Thank you all for your support. Please hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Please give this video a huge, massive like. And please, of course, turn on all notifications using that bell icon. So I'll just leave you with our two sponsor messages. First of all, from Blue Rose Capital. And we will leave you with 6yardsout.com. See you later, everyone. The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.